You and I are both going to be surprised today. I have no idea what's about to happen. All I know is that I agreed to it, but I don't know what I'm agreeing to. But you see, today's a very special celebration. It's day 200. That's right. We've been doing this 200 days in a row. And as a result, I've agreed to let some of the people in the Dreamliners take the show over. So I don't know what's happening, but I'm going to start out with Nancy Atherton West, who is the founder of the Dreamliners. And maybe, Nancy, you can tell everybody what the Dreamliners is. And then I'm going to let you run the show because I have no idea what's going on. I do know this. I do know that we have a couple of very, very big prizes today. Okay?
Ready to go.
Okay, you're on.
Thank you, Eric. And thank you, honestly, from all the Dreamliners and everyone that watches you every day. Usually twice a day, we're with the Streamline company. And that's really how the Dreamliners started. I went back to our first day and when we were going to put this panel together, and I thought, who could be on this panel that really is a representation of what the Dreamliners are? And so I have to say that there are many people who would love to be here that aren't here, and they'll probably get some shout outs. But we four were pretty responsible for actually creating the group. It was Ginny who was commenting away on May 30th that how can we stay in touch? Maybe we need a private group. Because you, Eric, were threatening to go away. And we had become such good friends, across the world, literally across the world.
Yeah, well, this has been fascinating to me, Nancy, because I only planned to do this for 2 weeks. We had to pivot, and I had to take our team off of everything else so we could do these dailies, including getting the videos ready and the editing and the uploading and all the other graphics and the things that go with it. And here we are 200 days in, well over 6 months. And so there was a point at which I was going to say, hey, I got to get back to work. But the whole idea of quarantining and trying to be there for people during quarantine was the idea. And then you started the group when you decided I was going to go away because you wanted to keep people together.
Exactly. And so Julia was, she was brainstorming what to call us, and she came up with Dream, Stream, Team, something. And then it was actually Linda Marie who said Dreamline Artists. And, that was like the last thing I heard. So that was what I typed in. I literally was watching on my iPad and creating the group on my iPhone. And I got it created on that day fast enough. It was about 10 minutes. That I was able to put it in the comments and people started joining, and it's just snowballed. It's been awesome. And Carolyn has been my trusty moderator who's helped me behind the scenes. So thank you, Carolyn. And there are so many. Andy Gonzalez was responsible for suggesting we do a monthly challenge, which we now do. Ray Richardson was behind the scenes helping me design how to do the monthly challenge and all the logistics. And there's just so many others that are so dear to our hearts. But so really,
how many members do you have in the Dreamliners now?
It's over 600.
Wow.
I mean, I can't even give you an exact number because it changes every time I look. But I really want to say that what we're about is everything that you've been teaching us. The positivity, keeping our head in the game, supporting one another. No politics, no negativity. It's all about art. And we're together every day. I want to mention something that was a quote that you taught us, Eric, and early on in one of your marketing segments. And you said, learn to stand on the shoulders of giants. And I think that resonated with everyone. And what I realize is you brought the giants to us every day. Every day in our own home, we meet a new giant, and we feel so connected because those interviews that you have and those demonstrations are so intimate. They are laying bare their process, their thinking, their mistakes. And it has given us not only better technique, but I think much better confidence in our own art. And so for that, we thank you. And another aspect of that is another another thing you taught us, and that is that we begin to learn when we see ourselves in others. And that too is just exactly what you've been bringing to us and allowing us to do and to learn at a rate and in a way that I don't think is possible any other, or it hasn't happened for me any other time, let's say. So for that, we just really want to thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. I am absolutely thrilled to do it. But I can't keep it going forever.
It's okay.
We're worried about that comment.
You're worried about that. You think you're worried.
So today what we wanted to do is we want you to be our special guest, and you don't have to do anything. You just answer some, well, it's going to be a little bit like the Spanish Inquisition, but no, not really. We want to address some areas that I know you're very interested in and get your take on things. And we have 3 areas, and my 3 lovely panelists here are going to be your interviewers. We're going to start with Ginny Good, and she's going to want to talk to you about your plein air experiences and your methods. And then we're going to move to Carolyn, and Carolyn is going to talk about your business and marketing experiences. And then Julia is going to want to talk about your traveling, your world travel, and your experience with some of the truly fine art that is on this planet that you've had an opportunity to see. And then I'm going to wrap it up at our closing.
Okay, well, I want to tell everybody that I had no idea what these categories or questions were in advance, so we're flying by the seat of my pants. So I should mention, because it's day 200, we have to have a little neon going on as we celebrate. We have a giveaway, and I would like to mention the giveaway. Would that be okay with you?
Go ahead. Yeah, we want to
It's
hear
your show today. It's your show. So today we're giving away 2 full registrations to Realism Live, and we're giving 1 away in North America and 1 away outside of North America. So here's the deal. You must, in the comments, if you want to win it, you must say where you're from. And if you've never commented before, today is the day to comment. And then we will choose from the comments, and we will we'll announce the winner. Right? So it sounds easy, right? And so we won't. I don't think we announce the winner today. I think we announce the winner tomorrow. But that's how we'll do it. So one full registration to Realism Live inside the North America and 1 outside of North America. Does it sound like a good deal?
That's wonderful.
Now, here's my request. If you have already bought and paid for a seat to Realism Live, just know that we're going to buy that back from you. But it would be really nice if you turned that into a scholarship and you gave it to someone who you know deserves it. So, but that's your choice. We're not going to force you to do that. Okay. So I'm going to get in my little handy dandy chair because I think I need to sit down for all of this. By the way, how'd I do on the self-portrait?
Well, I'll ask you about that. I'm going to.
Oh, you will? Okay. Well, then I will. I probably shouldn't be asking questions like that. All right.
Okay.
Now he's in his hot seat. So you go ahead.
Okay. Well, first of all, Eric, I just want to thank you for all the Dreamliners for bringing this to us for 200 days. And I have been watching for 200 days. These artists have inspired us, have kept me painting, and really have been a lifeline, to us. We really, really thank you and appreciate you. And I just want to read real quickly before I ask you the question. Elaine Miller, one of the Dreamliners, wrote, "Celebrating 200 days of worldwide friendships and basking in the super positive energy of Eric Rhoads. And every day we have really become a family from day one, and we will stick together no matter what the future may bring." Awesome. So thank you, Eric. You're very positive.
Thank you. Well, what I think is really amazing watching the Dreamliners at work, which I consider to be my family now, it is how close everyone has become and how everyone has stayed in touch, and people who have become members of the Dreamliners are all over the world, and that the magic of all of this, whether it's what you guys are doing or what we're doing here, is that every day as I watch the comments, I start seeing people, chiming in from every country in the world, it seems, and then what happened with Egypt, for instance, was we had one person, Mustafa, came in from Egypt, and then he started telling his friends, and then we started seeing more and more and more in Egypt. And the same thing is happening in South Africa, and the same thing is happening in the Netherlands and in Sweden. And so there are probably some countries I've not seen yet, but we would welcome. And but the thing is that in this particular world that we live in right now, which is crazy, we've realized because of coronavirus, we all have one thing in common. And that is we've all basically been locked down in most of the countries around the world. And we have realized that we may have differences in other areas, but we have no differences in art. And that we are all people who, the word heart has the word art in it, and we're all part of that heart. So I love what you guys are doing and how you've created this into a family. And I want to encourage this, no matter what happens to the daily. I want to encourage this to continue because I think it's a fabulous thing. And by the way, if people who are watching this, how do they become members of Dreamliners?
They just go on Facebook and ask to join Dreamliners.
It's actually Dreamline Artists.
Okay.
Dreamline Artists.
Okay, let me get to my questions because I'm excited to ask you about this.
Okay.
Okay. So during an interview with Kathy Odom, you were asking her about light bulb moments that she had, and you mentioned that you had a light bulb moment with C.W. Mundy, something he said to you, and that you say this to yourself every time you do a painting, but you never said what that was. So can you tell us about that light bulb moment?
Well, the light bulb moment was I had asked C.W. Mundy to come to teach a pre-convention workshop at the plein air convention, and he said, Eric, I don't do workshops anymore. I've kind of been there, done that, and I want to focus on my painting. And I begged him, and I got on my knees and I groveled, and he finally relented. And he said, okay, but this is my last public workshop. So he came out to the plein air convention, and we had a packed room. And the thing he talked about was in every painting, there's only one focal point. And in every painting, there's a star, there's a co-star, and there's a supporting cast. And the idea is that star is always the thing that gets all of your focus. And so that star being your focal point, wherever it is, and he gave some tips on where maybe it's a good idea to put them, which was basically the grid, dividing the canvas in thirds, and where the lines intersect in both directions. Those are the 4 great places for focal points. But he also says, even though there are rules, there are no rules. And so it was about put your lightest light, your darkest dark, your brightest chroma, and your sharpest edges in that focal point. And if you do that, everything else then gets softer and softer out of focus the further out you go. Now, I had heard this before. Ken Oster was the first one to teach me that, but it didn't resonate because I hadn't been painting very long. And once CW said it, it started to resonate.
That's great. And then that leads into the next question. We've heard so many artists, and even today, I loved Daniel just saying that his process is the way his brain works. And all these different artists we've seen for 200 days have different approaches, different processes, different styles. So we'd love to see some of your work, like your self-portrait behind you. But can you give us a brief description of what your process is, what your approach, what you think your style is?
Well, I would say, first off, I don't really have much around to show you. I mean, my studio's a mess, but I can show you.
But I like your self-portrait. It's beautiful.
I have the self-portrait in the background that I just I'll have to move that I just completed, And my daughter says it's creepy. And because when I first painted it, first off, I set up a mirror beside my easel here. Let's see if you can see it. There's my easel. Everything's a mess, but my easel's right there. And then there's a mirror right behind my head right here. And so I set up a mirror and I painted it, and I did not light myself. It was only from the ceiling lights above, because I have my sunlight lights above. And so first off, it looks a little evil because it's, lighting up my hair, and it was just lazy of me because I didn't set up a light. And so, but I decided to live with it. But when I started it out, I had kind of this no smile grimace on my face. And I thought, I really want to reflect who I am. And though oftentimes people don't dig smiles in portraits throughout history because first off, they're impossible to pull off. So I decided to kind of try and capture my expression, which was really hard to do in self-portrait. And so my daughter thinks I look evil because my smile is a little too evil looking.
Great. That's wonderful. And just, real briefly, do you start out, how do you start out a painting?
Well, I'm schizophrenic. And the reason I say that is because I know so many artists, and I deal with so many artists, and I watch so many artists in their process. And of course, you guys are doing that now too because of the daily broadcast, is that you keep falling in love with new things and you want to do it all. And so I truly am schizophrenic, because if you were to look around my studio, which, like I said, is a real mess, I have things that are tight. Let me see. I'll give you two examples. I have that portrait that I did there. There's a really interesting story behind that, which I won't get into, but I wanted to really do something that was more along the lines of the classical realism style, a very tight portrait, academically rendered. And so that started out with a 1-day drawing, and then it was a 4-day painting or 3-day painting. And I really loved that experience in doing that. And that was with a live model. Right beside it is a painting I did, which is a Russian style. And it's exactly the opposite. It's loose and brushy. And this is not an original work. This is a copy work. I copied this out of a book because I wanted to learn how the artist did it. I can't tell you the name of the artist because I don't know. But so that's, very, very brushy, right? And it was something I wanted to accomplish. And then this is very tightly rendered. And you can see there's a big difference. And that's why I'm schizophrenic, because I really love both.
I think we're becoming that way too.
We want to try everything that's new.
And this is one I've been working on for a while. This is my
I love that.
my minor. I met this minor we were looking at I can't say where because we're still looking at it. We were looking at a place for a plein air convention, and I met this miner with the donkey in the street, and I wanted to do something that was a little bit of a blend between kind of loose and academic. My donkey isn't very well rendered yet, but anyway, so I'm kind of all over the road.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let Carolyn go next because I don't want to take up all the time. And so Carolyn has some questions.
All right.
Thanks, Ginny. Aloha, everyone from Honolulu, Hawaii. Sunny morning. Yeah. And first and foremost, Eric, a big mahalo for everything that you've done to pull us all together. It's been such an uplifting experience. And we've become, a tribe of people all over the world. I mean, we'd be commenting and Linda would be making dinner in Italy and I'm just having my morning coffee in Hawaii, but we had so much fun. So we're hoping you can keep this going on some level, just as long as you can.
Well, let me just comment on that, if I might. Okay.
Sure.
Because I've been giving a lot of thought to this. As I mentioned, doing this daily, it eats up about 5 people's, maybe 6 people's time. and a lot of their time, and especially the 3 p.m. video. I intend to keep the 3 p.m. video going daily, and as long as I can. But we actually will have to employ someone full time just to do that, because they can't get anything else done if we do that. So that's part of the plan. But I don't think I'm going to show up daily after today. And the reason is that after 200 days, quite frankly, I'm exhausted. Even though I'm the Energizer Bunny, I haven't had time off, and we're back home in Austin, and my wife said, what, we have a weekend, right? And I said, well, no. So I think I have to at least take weekends off, and I may from time to time just take a day off, because it's getting more and more difficult. So for instance, we're taping this right now, and this is running on Sunday, but we're taping it, and we're taping it because I'm on an airplane to go to Fall Color Week. And so just got back from New York and turning around and going to New Hampshire to Fall Color Week. And then I have to leave New Hampshire. And if the airplanes run on time, I'll get back in time for Realism Live, and I'll do 5 days of that. And so I'm having to pre-record a couple segments to be able to do that, because I can't do everything live every day all the time now. During coronavirus times, when things were locked down, it was easier, and at the lake it was easier. But now that I've got some other responsibilities, I probably can't do it every day. But I'm going to try to do it as much as I can, because I've enjoyed doing it. I like it. I'm a bit of a ham, and I like being on camera. But I also like the fact that it's really enriched my life, and it's enriching other people's lives by all of us coming together. So I'm going to do what I can. But, you guys are going to have to forgive me if I drop out once in a while, and because I've got to make sure I take good care of my health and my family and my responsibilities and my businesses. And so there's something has to give, and that's probably what's going to give a little.
Well, we appreciate everything you've been doing, and these 200 days have been incredible. So whatever scale you can do it, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, couple quick questions. Mine are business and marketing related. The first one, if the pandemic hadn't happened, would you have considered doing something like streamlined daily videos as a marketing strategy in any case?
Absolutely. But I sat down, I don't know, a year or 2 years ago with a buddy of mine who is a marketing guru, someone that I look up to. And I told him, he said, Eric, what are your goals? I said, my biggest goal is I want to teach 1 million people how to paint. He said, why? And I said, well, because it changed my heart. It changed my life. It gave me the ability to see life through the eyes of an artist. And I want to bring that to other people. And I said, how do I do that? Now, I had told him already that I have a deal with a 3-letter network to do a national television show on plein air painting. And he said, well, that's one of the ways that you can do that. He says, because you're going to reach 20 million people every episode. Because of coronavirus, and because I've got to raise close to $1 million to do that, I haven't raised the money. I have had a couple of generous people, give me a couple $100,000. So I've still got to raise, I don't know, $600,000-$700,000 yet to get that show on the air. And I also know the network's going to get a little anxious about this not happening if I don't get it turned around pretty quickly. So I will do that. But the other thing he said is, have you thought about going on YouTube every day? And I said, no, I hadn't thought about it. He said, well, quite frankly, if you just went on YouTube once a week and you did something with painting and you just talked about art once a week, he said, you would build up a pretty substantial audience. Well, we've been doing this every day. We've got, I think, 56,000 people on YouTube alone.
That's great.
The average Facebook broadcast is getting seen by about 12,000 people after it's run for about a week. And some of them are up to, 12, 16,000 people viewing it. And then it's also going out on Instagram and Twitter and other things. And so, we're moving in the direction now. I don't have any way to know who is viewing. I don't have any way to reach those people. I don't have any way to know if they're all painting but I have heard from people. I've heard so many stories, and I know you have too, but stories like one woman contacted me and she said, I had studied art, but my parents discouraged me, pushed me into something else in college. I did my whole career. I raised my kids, and now I have my own time again. And I wasn't even thinking about art. I had forgotten about it, but I stumbled into this show and it got me painting again. So to me, that warms my heart. So many stories like that of people who discovered painting for the first time. I've had people, I had a career and still am very involved in the radio broadcasting industry. I'm hearing from people in the radio broadcasting industry who have taken up painting because they saw this show. And so, I mean, there's just all kinds of stories. And I think it would be really cool today if people would put their stories in the comments.
Oh, I love that idea. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, I got another quick question for you. We'd like to hear about your prior business experience and how that kind of helped you switch to the virtual model, on a dime, because you really did do it quickly.
Well, I had to. I was going to be out of business. And you keep in mind that I'm in primarily I'm in 4 businesses. I'm in the radio industry with a trade magazine, which does, it's in the advertising business, it's in the subscription business, it's in the conference business. And then I'm in the art world in those 3 businesses. Plus I create art instruction videos with Lil It All, CCP, and Streamline, and Paint2. And we now have a TV channel on Roku, Apple, and Amazon. And so we make most of our income for our employees. We had before this all started, we had 50 employees. And they're not, I hate the word employees because they're really family. And most of them have been with me for a long time, some as high as 25, 26 years. And I was faced with, what do? I don't have any income. Our event business makes up 60 or 70% of our total income, and our event business completely died, 100%. We were filled with cancellations for the plein air convention, the figurative art convention, the Adirondacks Fall Color Week, all these different things. And of course, we had to give people their money back because that's the right thing to do. But we're like, what do we do? And so the event business was crashing. The advertising business was crashing. The first thing people typically do when an economy gets bad or they get frightened is they cancel their advertising, which is, of course, the worst thing they can do, because that's the best time to advertise, because they're alone, they stand out more. But we lost 50% of our advertising revenue on both the advertising, the art side and the radio side. And the video business continued to hold its own, but the video business is a small piece of the overall thing. Well, I couldn't support the company on just the video business alone. And so during the last recession, I went on a company call and I got all the employees together and I said, look, we're going to have to cut this much money out of our budget. And so we have 2 choices. We can lay people off, or we can all take reductions. And I left it up to the team and I said, it's up to you guys, but one of the 2 things is going to happen. Well, everybody chose reductions. I think we ended up having to lay off a couple people back then, but we got through it once the recession was over. We essentially had the same thing happen this time. We gave everybody across the board a 20% reduction in pay, and we did have to lay off a few people because we couldn't make the numbers work, and it was unfortunate. But it was either that or we'd be out of business. And so we had to pivot. And I was really depressed. I have to tell you, I don't get depressed very often, but I was depressed and I was scared. And so I called Jay Abraham, who did the foreword to my book. I said, Jay, can you help me through this? This was like the first day. And I said, can you help me through this? He said, Eric, this is the biggest opportunity you've ever had in your career. He said, take advantage of it. And I hadn't looked at it from that way. And he said, well, you know, all my friends are going to virtual conferences. Why don't you do that? And I said, Jay, it won't work. And I gave him all the reasons it wouldn't work. He said, Eric, listen to yourself. You're not, you know, you're not being yourself. He said, of course it'll work. So I got the team on the phone and I said, we have 6 weeks to get a virtual conference together because we don't have that money. We have to lay everybody off. We have to close the company. And everybody's like, okay, we're in. And so we did the plein air live virtual conference, and it saved our business, quite frankly. We had, I don't know, 1,500 people, and we had enough, we brought in enough that we would not lose it. It saved half of our business. We still have to save the other half for the rest of the year, but it saved us enough that I actually brought all the employees back to their full salaries now, and we are paying them back by Christmas or by New Year's. They'll all be paid back all the money that was originally reduced.
Amazing. That's amazing.
That's great.
Well, speaking from myself, the Plein Air Live was so amazing. I'm 10 minutes into Kreider, and it's 5 in the morning, and I'm thinking, this is the best thing since sliced bread. And I was so glad I didn't have to get on a plane from Hawaii to go anywhere. And I just had chills. And 5 minutes after you announced Realism Live, I bought my tickets. It's been incredible. So I'm hoping this new paradigm actually is some permanent piece of your business, because it's a lifeline for a lot of us. So thank you.
You're welcome. We discovered that there were a lot of people who attended. First off, a lot of people who had gone to our live events did not attend the virtual events. They said, I'd rather go to a live event. And they really missed out on a lot of opportunity, quite frankly. And then there was a small sector who said, I'm doing both. And the ones who said that are saying, I'm going to the live event still. And the Realism or the Plein Air Live was so cheap. I did that too, and it was worth doing. And what we discovered, there were a lot of people who are homebound. They're taking care of family members, husbands, wives, grandparents, kids. They've got jobs, they can't leave, they don't have vacation time, or they don't have a lot of money to go to a live event where you can easily spend, $2,000-$3,000 by the time you pay for all your expenses. And so it was, we discovered there were a lot of people who were going to ride with us if we continue to do this. The issue is we don't know if it will work in the future, because once we started doing it, everybody else started doing it. So now, you've got every person out there, every organization is doing virtual conferences. I've been involved in the La Papa virtual conference, which is fabulous, and they gave me an award last night. And so it is. We don't know if it'll continue to work because it's getting diluted, but we're going to certainly try. And if we can do our in-person events, we're going to do those too. I will tell you what I have discovered from all of this, though, and that is that I've discovered that even though I may have a red S on my chest, I'm human, and there's a limit to how much I can do. And so I have consciously made a decision that I'm going to do less, not more. And when I say that, I mean, I'm on stage at the Plein Air Convention, the Figurative Art Convention. I'm spending a week at the Adirondacks. I'm spending a week at Fall Color. I'm spending a week on one of our international trips. And then, I'm traveling out and doing site selections for conventions. And I was on the road 40 weeks. And when COVID hit, our kids were stuck at home. We were at home, and I reconnected at a different level with my family. And even though the kids are in college now, I want to maintain some of that. I don't want to go back to that hectic life on an airplane routine anymore. So I'm going to be more selective of what trips I take. And I'm seriously considering stopping some of the painting events that I'm doing, and or reducing them down, maybe not do as many, or maybe do them every other year or something, because I want to have a life. And that, even though that's part of my life, I want to make sure that family has to come first.
Oh, I think we all understand that. We really do. But I think the ripple effect will continue because you've put amazing people together, and the quality of everything that you've done, I think, will last. So again, kudos and thank you.
Thank you. Well, you guys are going to play a really critical role in that.
Well, we'll continue to support you. Okay, next is going to be Julia.
Hi, Eric. Thank you so much. You have certainly enhanced our life, if not saved it, during this whole time. That it's been the highlight of my day when all of this was, we were all quarantined and couldn't do anything. But the highlight of my day was not just hearing you and coming on and hearing other artists and talking about their art, but also connecting with, Nancy and Ginny and, so many of the other Dreamliners. And it was a necessary part of my life and still is. And I just look forward to the noontime hour and the 3 o'clock hour. And I just, that just is so meaningful to me. And what a stroke of genius that you put it all together. Maybe you didn't intend to do that, but it was certainly a wonderful way to reconnect with everyone and to give us a little glimmer of hope and sunshine in our day. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart that it's meant the world to me. And you're just fabulous. And
I think there's a list of people far too long to acknowledge who really put this all together. Probably the one that's getting hit the hardest is my assistant Allie, who is a superstar, and she already had a full-time job, and now I've added another full-time job to this, and so much so that we had to hire another assistant just to help her, give her an assistant to help her get through this. And but Allie is scheduling artists every day and having to chase them down and find them, and some people can do it, some people can't. You've got a social media team that is putting out the social media. You've got graphic artists who are putting out the graphics. You've got the video team that is editing the videos and finding ways to get the 3 PMs out there, and then spending, each one takes a couple hours to upload, and there's a pretty big effort. So everybody else is doing all the work that makes, I get all the credit, but they're doing all the work. And so I just want to thank everybody on the Streamline team. I mean, it has really amplified, it's put our team together. We're all very excited about this and what's happened, and it really has helped our business and helped us see new things. But it's also putting everybody under a lot of strain, and we don't have the money to hire a bunch of new people yet. So we're kind of being held back, and everybody's doing twice as much as they normally do. But that, I think they're the ones who deserve applause.
You're absolutely right. And we always try to say thank you to the Streamline team and all those people, and especially Allie. I've talked to her a couple of times on the phone, and whatever thing I had going on, she was like, okay, no big deal. And it just kind of flatlined, and it was like, oh, wow. So she's an amazing person to get to know.
I think she just celebrated, seems like it was 9 years. Wow. Does that seem possible? I don't know. It was 8 years, 9 years, a long time.
Yeah. Well, thank you so very much. I know the plein air event was really wonderful, and I will plug it. The Realism Live. I'm so excited about going to this. It's just an amazing event, and I'm like going, okay, now what do I need to get? How do I get it already? And I've got everything all just lined up, going ready for it.
That's exciting.
Anyway,
it's pretty rare to get all those people together in one place, and I know a lot of people have seen the ads for it and have gone, well, I'll go to the next one. The problem is, this group of artists will never be together on stage ever again anywhere. Yeah. And there, some of them will be, but not the full group. I mean, getting Odd Nerdrum, like this is like getting the Rembrandt of our time, and to get him, and that was tough. And, but also, I mean, all these others like Daniel Graves from the Florence Academy. I mean, he's got 2 full-time jobs now. He's trying to save his business, and then we're asking him to do this, and he's doing it as a personal favor because we're very dear friends. But a lot of these people would never be available if it weren't for coronavirus. So this, and what I like to say to people is, look, if it's really not expensive to attend this in reality, and if you get one good idea out of it, one thing that changes your painting, one thing that brings you up to the next level, you'd pay 10 times that amount of money just to be able to get to that level and not have to struggle as much to get there. And so I think that, I think it's a bargain. We've kept it fairly inexpensive, but we have a lot of expenses that we have to do. And of course, we're compensating the artists and so on as well. So anyway, that's my story.
Well, I have this wonderful question for you. Would you tell us about that one painting that stopped you dead in your tracks when you were so wowed that it took not just your breath away, but it took time away, that you could get lost in that painting and lose all sense of time, and finally when you turned away, you found yourself with maybe a tear in the corner of your eye? Can you tell us about that painting?
Well, it's not a painting that I did. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was talking about this to my wife the other day. When I was a young man of maybe 23, 24, I went into some people's house, and I had never seen a house with original paintings in it. And they lived across the lake from my mom and dad. They were good friends of my mom and dad. And I said, I've never seen anything like this. I hadn't really ever been in museums, maybe once. And I said, I didn't know you could buy stuff like this. And they said, oh, well, there's a gallery in town that specializes in this, and they're from Chicago, and the lady's husband moved here, and so it's better art in our town than we normally are used to having. So I asked her where it was, and I immediately got in the car and went down there to that gallery. I was engaged to be married and starting my life and my career, and I walked into this gallery, and they had a painting. It was about it was bigger than my self-portrait. It was about 8 or 10 feet tall, and it was an interior of probably a Catholic church. It was very European looking, and you could see the perspective of the interior of the church. And there was a little pauper girl there, with scuffed feet and torn clothes, and she had the big eyes, and very much like what I would now know to be a Bouguereau painting. I don't know who did that painting. It may have been someone who was a student of his. And I asked the lady, I said, that's the most beautiful painting I've ever seen in my life. I said, how much is it? I want to own that painting. And she said, it's $25,000. And I said, really? For a painting? And she said, yes, that's a very good price for that painting. And I said, I wish I could own that painting someday. And but I said, $25,000 might as well be $1 million for me, or $10 million for me. I couldn't do it. So anyway, I went back to the gallery when I was visiting. I went back to the gallery once a week to look at that painting. And then one day I went back and it was gone, and I was heartbroken. And I said, who bought it? And she says, well, I can't really say. And I said, well, I'm just curious, and I'm not going to bother him. She said, well, actually, they live across the street from your mom and dad. And so I didn't bother him. I've never called him about it. And then they moved away to Florida. And on my last visit to my hometown, my best friend was driving me through. I couldn't remember their name. And he told me, he said, didn't so-and-so live over there? And I thought, that's the name. I need to find them in Florida, because, they got to be 90 years old by now. They probably aren't they're going to need a home for that painting. I called the gallery and I said, they're still in business. I said, have you heard anything about the painting? Is it available? I mean, I would buy it today. And they said, we haven't heard. As far as we know, they still own it. So that's one that got away that I've thought about my entire life. Now, I don't know now that, 50 years later or 25 years later, I don't know if my trained eye would appreciate that painting like I did back then, because now I understand paintings a lot better, but I hope I'm not disappointed if I ever see it again.
Yes. Some of them just stay with you.
Oh yeah.
Paintings do.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about your travels. We know that you've been to Russia and to China and to Cuba. Would you share with us a favorite experience that you had that was kind of a surprise to you that you weren't really expecting, but you look back on it and go, whoa, that was really a cool time?
Yeah, I have not been to China. I was invited to China. I was supposed to go right before coronavirus, but I have not been there yet.
Okay.
I'm supposed to go in November. I don't know if I will. I'm a little intimidated by that right now. Yeah, so this is kind of a long story. If we run over, that's okay. So I was at the Los Angeles Art Show, and I went into the cafeteria and I got some food in the cafeteria, and I was looking for a place to sit, and all the tables were filled up with people. And there was this one big round table and this guy that looked like Charles Manson. And it was really scary looking, big beard and nicely dressed. It didn't look homeless, but it was a little intimidating. Nobody was sitting at his table. So I said, may I join you? And he said, sure. And we struck up a conversation, became quick friends. Turns out he's a dealer in Russian art. And he's getting me all excited about Russian paintings. I had never seen Russian paintings. And he said, you haven't lived until you've seen Russian paintings. And I said, well, how do I do that? He says, well, he says, I got them in my gallery, but he says, you just got to go to Russia. I said, well, I see all these movies about Russia. It looks dangerous. He says, well, it could be, but he says, you go with the right people. He says, why don't you go with me? I said, okay. I just met this man. And I said, when are you going? He said, next week. And I said, well, I can't go next week. I said, when's the next time you're going? He said, in about 90 days. I said, I'll go on that one. So I got my visa. I flew over and I landed first off, I went to St. Petersburg by myself to see it because I knew it was beautiful. And then I meet him and this old Stalin-esque hotel. Looks like something out of the movies, got a big red star on it. And it's from the 1920s or 30s. It's beautiful and old, and it's very intimidating, and lots of propaganda paintings in it and so on. Then I stay in my room and I'm like totally intimidated. I put the door up, I chair up against the door, and I'm thinking, something's going to happen to me. And then he had said, I hadn't even seen him yet, and the instructions were meet us in the parking lot at 4:00 in the morning and have your bags because we're going on from here. So I go down at 4:00 in the morning, and it's snowing and it's freezing cold, and it's October, and there's this little tiny Russian car. It's probably about the size of a Volkswagen. It's square, and there's 5 men, me and 4 other men, and we're all pretty big guys. And we all squeezed into this car. One of them was John, the dealer. One of them was his son, who was former art student there. One of them was his professor, and then another artist. We all squeezed into this car, and the windshield washers are doing this with the mud. And I said, well, let's stop at a gas station and get some squirter stuff. And they said, what's that? Because they don't have it. And so we stop and get newspaper, and we're just spreading the mud across the windshield. Anyway, we drive for 5 hours inland, and we end up, the cell phone rings, and you hear this gibberish. What do you do? And the next thing you know, this car pulls in front of us, and I said, what's going on? They said, well, we have to follow him. So we follow him, and we go to this place, which is called the Academic Adasha, which was founded by Catherine the Great. And it was designed to be a place where all the art students go for the summertime and learn plein air painting. And they also had studios for rain days. And there's a statue of Ilya Repin there, and there's a building that was built for Repin, and there's this little red house And in the little red house, we walk in and there's paintings by Repin and Shishkin and Levitan and all the greats. And I had never seen Russian paintings before.
Amazing.
And I had tears in my eyes. I mean, they were so beautiful. And this little house with really no security. And they since have been all stolen out of there, which is really a tragedy. But so then we go to the cafeteria. And I said, what are we doing? And he says, we're going to have a meeting. And so some guys want to ask you some questions. And I'm conjuring up, okay, it's KGB or something. And so we're sitting there at this table, and this old Russian guy comes out, and he's about 70 years old to me at the time, and he starts through the translator asking me questions about art. And so I'm answering the questions, and I look over to the dealer and I said, what's going on? He said, just answer the questions as honestly as you can. I said, can you tell me what's going on? He said, no, I really can't. So this goes on for an hour. And then the guy goes, he nods like that, and he gets up and he walks away. And I said again to the dealer, I said, you got to tell me what's going on. He said, I can't, I'm sorry, but just be patient. So 5 minutes later, a younger man in his 40s, kind of a stocky guy, comes out, and he's asking me questions. And so he asks questions for about 10, 15 minutes, and then he goes away. And then the other guy comes back, asks me 3 or 4 more questions. And then he looks at the dealer, and in English, because he understood English, but I didn't know that, he says, he will see you now. And I said, who will see me? And so John, the dealer, said, listen, I couldn't tell you this because this is a very rare opportunity. You were being interviewed to find out if you were the real deal. You're going to meet with the oldest and most important living artist in Russia. And his name is Yuri Kugach. And he would be the equivalent of meeting with Andrew Wyeth or Norman Rockwell in America. He said the man that came out and the other man that came out are his son and his grandson. He said everyone in the family paints. His wife painted, she's passed on. The son paints, the grandson paints, the great grandkids paint, and they are like the Wyeth family of Russia. And so we walked down the road through the snow to this little log cabin, a dasha, and in there is this little old man. He's 88, 89, and bald, and he greets us and talks to us for a minute, and it's all Russian. And then we're in his studio, and his studio is stacked floor to ceiling with paintings. And John says to me, he says, I've never been in this studio. I've been in his Moscow studio. He said, this is a rare privilege. Nobody gets to come in here. And he said, the work that's in here is his favorite work that he's keeping. And he's told me that he's decided he's going to sell some of it because he's starting to get old. And I said, well, there's a lot of it here. Are you going to buy a lot? He said, no, it's all very expensive. This is very important artist. He says, even the small little ones are going to be $15,000, $20,000 a piece. He says, I might pick up a few for the gallery, but he said that, they're very expensive and very rare. And as he's flipping through, he's pulling out studies from famous paintings that hang in the great museums in Russia. And so he kind of goes through and pulls out what he wants. And then Yuri Kugach says to me, you must look. And I said, well, I'm not buying. And he says, no, I'm curious what your taste is. And he said, pull out the 5 best paintings in the room. So I flipped through every painting in that room. There must have been 900 of them. I pulled out 10, 12 paintings. Then I narrowed it down to 5 paintings. He says to me, which one is the best? And I immediately went to one painting. I said, it's that one. He said, you picked the best painting in the room. How did you know? And I said, well, what's the story? And he said, I started painting that painting in 1938. It's outside the dasha right here. It's a snow painting. And he said, I've worked on that in plein air every other year of my life since 1938. He said, I finished it about 2 years ago. He said, that's the most sensitive, most delicate painting I've ever done. And then he says, you must own it. And I said, look, I apologize, but I can't buy. And I said through the translator, and I said, I don't have a lot of money. I didn't bring a lot of money with me. And I know it's going to be $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 for a 9x12. And I said, can you help me get out of this? Because I don't want to insult him. And he said, no, you have to make him an offer. And I said, I can't insult him. I said, I give him 1/6 of my money because I want to buy some other paintings while I'm here. He said, well, how much did you bring? I said, I brought $6,000. And so he tells him that, and he says to me, okay, I will sell that to you for this price. He said, but you have to promise me that painting will stay in your family forever. You can never sell that painting. And it's one of my most cherished possessions.
Do you have that on your wall now?
I have it in a very secret place because I don't want anyone coming to take it away.
Right.
It is a very important painting, and it should be in a museum.
Amazing.
Wow.
Wow.
What a great story.
That is.
Sorry it was so long.
No, that's
Yeah,
okay. I'm
that's
just
worth telling.
Yes.
Gosh.
looking at our time here. Eric, how much time do you think we have?
Well, we have 4 minutes, and some platforms may cut off, but we'll keep going as long as you want. Maybe another 5 or 10 minutes, however you want to do.
How about yeah, I have one last question for you.
Okay.
Kind of a philosophical question. And then I know you want to talk a little bit more about Realism Live. So we'll leave time for that. How's that?
We don't need to talk about it. I'll just say this. Anybody who wants to go should go to realismlive.com and check it out. At least look at the faculty and at least consider it.
Absolutely.
Truly.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Julia and Carolyn and Ginny. This has been marvelous, absolutely marvelous. And I just have a closing question for you, Eric. What have you learned about yourself in these past 200 days? And perhaps what have you learned about others through the 200 days of being with us every day?
Well, I think that I've learned that the world can be very cruel, and that artists are not very cruel. That artists, the people who have been participating in this, have been generous and loving and giving, and have not been following the negative path that everybody else has. Now, there are exceptions to that rule. I haven't seen it on this page, on our comments, but as you know, I have removed all political commentary from my life. Even if I've known somebody for 50 years and they're a Facebook friend, if they're getting into politics, I've removed them because I just, and by the way, people who I agree with or people I disagree with, I just don't want to read it. My life is too short to spend my time on negativity. I will change what I can change, and the rest of it is, I can't change your minds. They can't change my minds, and everybody is just being belligerent, and I don't want to be a part of that. So I want to be a part of beauty, and that's why I decided to spend the rest of my life focusing on art. And so I think what I've learned is that the people that we've connected with, I was thinking about our friend Mustafa in Egypt and how this has been a life-changing event for him. I mean, it was a really big deal when we all showed up for his birthday party, and he was showing off his family to us. And I asked him to make a promo for Plein Air Live, and he drove 2 hours to record a promo for 15 seconds because he wanted to give us something that was really special. He wanted to be in front of the pyramids. And they told him, the guards said, you can't record video here. So he drove home. And then I said, don't worry about it. It's okay. And then he decided, he drove back again and talked him into it. And I mean, the spirit of people and the connectivity of the people who are part of this family is absolutely wonderful. So it's been, from that standpoint, it's been a wonderful experience. And I've learned something about myself too. And that is that I think we all have perceptions that have been given to us by others, especially the media and the movies. And I'm now meeting people from other cultures that I would have never met before, and realizing that, you know, they put their pants on the same way we do. And these are people who care about art the same way we do. And they're ravenous to learn and grow, and that we're all a shared family. And I think that's been the biggest and best eye opener for me, is it made me realize how narrow some of my own thinking was.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I can't tell you how many times I get, you know, the members messaging me and saying, thank you, Nancy, for all you do. And I'm thinking, it's not me, you know, it's all of us. But,
Well, but you were a catalyst, and you all made this happen.
Well, and we've all contributed, and we do a lot of creative things on the page, and I want that to keep going. I can't imagine what it's going to be like if we all are at PACE in Denver and we get to meet in person. It's going to be one big love fest in the world.
We'll do a special cocktail party or something, and then I know that we agreed we weren't going to talk about this much, but we put together a little something special for everybody who was a Dreamliner as of midnight last night, and something we wanted to do for you guys. And I know you figured out how to distribute that. So I would encourage everybody, you know, we'll do stuff like this in the future. I'd encourage everybody to become part of the Dreamliners. And for those of you who are sitting back and watching and not participating, your life will be richer if you participate, if you comment.
Very true.
If you ask questions, you make yourself known, and become part of the family.
Right.
Yeah,
that's absolutely right. Thanks for saying that.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you for giving this hour
to Eric.
What's that?
And we had our plans for possibly a Dreamliners convention sometime.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll do that. Sure.
I'm there. Yeah. But
we'll do it.
Thank you for having us on.
I will. I may have to cut something else out to pull it off, but we'll do it.
I'll help.
Yes, you will.
I think I just took the binder, you know, as they say in volunteer world, don't take the binder. But this has been really fun. Thanks you all for taking the time out. And we're just so excited about day 200.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. I have to put our little graphic on and flash
There you
it.
go. A little bit of neon.
Yeah.
And thanks for being
everybody Realism Live.
Eric, I just have to hear you say one more time, keep your head in the game and be positive.
Okay. All right. Well, before I do that, let me just say this, that today's the day you should be commenting and saying where you're from, because from those comments, in case you missed this in the beginning, we're giving away 2 full registrations to Realism Live, one inside of North America and one outside of North America. And because we have people from 30, 40, 50 countries already coming, it could be you. And so put a comment in, just say, hey, my name is, and I'm from here. That's all you need to do. We'd love to see that. And we're going to grab a name and announce a name for I think tomorrow. So thank you. I'm really honored that you guys would ask me to do this. I probably talk about myself too much anyway, but
We loved it.
Yes.
Yeah. This was great. It was really good.
fabulous.
As Pierre would say, go paint.
Okay.
Fall coloring.
Well, listen, keep your head in the game and stay positive.
Yes.
All right.
Well,
And what do they say at the airlines? What do they say at the airlines? They say, put your mask on before helping others. We all need oxygen. We
Yeah.
all need to be upbeat and positive. And if we take care of ourselves and feed our own souls and keep ourselves healthy and keep our immune systems healthy and keep our brains happy and positive, and not only getting exercise, but exercising this by learning and growing and doing something you love, then you're going to be better for your family. And so give yourself some oxygen. That's what this daily has been all about.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Eric.
All right.
Thank you.
I guess we're done.
I think we're done.
Okay. Bye.